How do I let everyone in? Admit all.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Woo, it's going really busy.
Hi, everyone.
Going to the view to see everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hey. We're going to ask everyone to be muted, but you can turn your cameras on and wave at us. Hi, Angela.
Hello. Good to see you.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Hi. Anna, Jessica, Jessie, Audrey, everyone. Hi.
Hello, hello, hello.
Yeah, just asking everyone to be muted because there's so many people.
We weren't expecting this. We thought, oh, maybe a couple of people will be interested.
Yeah, otherwise it'll get out of hand if everyone's talking at the same time. There's still people joining, so I'm gonna click on buttons. Oh my god.
Christy.
Can I like pin you? And can I pin me? I wonder.
There's still more.
I can pin the two of us. Look.
The two of us. Oh, cool. How do I do that?
Is just two of us on the screen now, right?
I've got everyone.
You've got everyone. Oh,
I think it's just us.
Well, I'm gonna do that.
I'm being nosy. I've got everyone up because I want to see.
Okay, that's fine.
Hey, Claire. Hiya.
Right, I'm muting everyone I can see is not muted. Oh, Jesus. Sorry, I'm blasphemous, but there's still more people joining.
Gosh.
Right, we're going to get started, I think, and then I'll yeah, let's everyone mute yourselves, please. Don't mute it.
Really important to stay muted because otherwise you just get background noise instead of people.
Right, let's get started, and I'm hopefully
checking.
Hopefully we can manage everything at the same time.
Only people that aren't muted now are people who are still
connected. No, I don't think so. It's fine. Right, so we know some of you and some of you we don't know, and I don't know how much you know about us, so we thought we'd just introduce ourselves a little bit and kind of tell you a little bit about Made for Documentary and how it all began.
The birth story
the
of
birth story, yeah.
Documentary. Back in about, I don't know, 2018, 2019, you know, there's lots of British documentary family photographers. And, you know, we kind of admired each other from afar. You know, I admired Antonina. I didn't really know her. She admired me, didn't really know each other. Never really met. I'm just assuming you admired
I did.
Not me, but our work, you know. I mean, I know we're both gorgeous, but we're talking about work here. And then the pandemic hit.
We had nothing to do.
We were a bit of a loose end. You know, a lot of photographers, family photographers were. And so can I just remind everyone to mute, please?
Yeah, I'm kind of like muting as you're talking.
So we were all a bit of a loose end, and I just had this sort of brainwave one day. I think I was obviously had nothing else going on, and so my brain was in overdrive. I thought, I know, I could start a course with Antonina, someone who I've never met before. So I wrote her a little message on Messenger and went, "Hi, Antonina, we don't really know each other, but I thought we could do a course together." And then Antonina received my message, and
I said yes. That was a no-brainer. I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. So long story short, we've developed a course called Turning Case into Art, and that's what was the start of Made for Documentary as you know it today, if you know it. Hopefully you do, because you've registered for this class. And before we'll dive into today's training, which will be about composition and looking at some of your work and also at some of the greats, we just wanted to let you know that the 5th run of Turning Case into Art starts on the 12th of February. It's more than half full now, so we only have about 6 places left. And everyone who attends today's training gets a discount of £100 off. The code for that is Composition 100. I'll pop that in the chat for you to check out. And the code will be valid until end of Monday, just to give you guys a little bit of time to read through it and decide if it's the right one for you. But would love to have some of you on that course. You will see sort of a little bit of a preview of how we teach today. And the turning case into art is basically critique based. You'll get building blocks of a great, documentary image. There'll be an assignment, and 2 weeks later, a critique based on that assignment, and assignment and critique. And there's a couple of people.
I was going to say, often people are a little bit nervous about the critique. In fact, we've had messages about people who wanted to join this recording or this meeting and saying, "Oh, but I don't want to submit. I'm really nervous." But you know what? And I know there's people on here who can vouch for it, because there's people who there's a few faces that we recognise from the course, and people end up loving them and thinking, starting nervous, absolutely loving them, and by the end of the course they're like, "Oh my God, we're going to have withdrawal symptoms. How are we going to cope without it?"
Yeah. Actually, I just had a great idea. If everyone, by the way, if you have questions as we sort of talk through things, talk through pictures, if we say anything, or you just have a generic question about photography, documentary photography, please feel free to pop in the chat. We'll try and get as many questions and photographs looked at as we can. We only have about 2 hours today. But yeah, we'll try to get to you. But please, right now, can everyone put in the chat, where are you from? Like, where are you watching from? That would be great to get you guys.
Yeah, that'd be lovely.
Yeah. And we'll, Bermuda, Sydney.
Wow, I'm jealous.
Denver. Canada.
So some people have got snow, some people have got sun. It's freezing here in the UK at the moment.
Yeah, I have a blankie.
It's going to start raining again tomorrow, though, so we won't.
I'm supposed to photograph an icy swim on Saturday. Saturday needs to be still very, very cold.
I'm afraid it's not going to be nice on Saturday.
I need ice on the lake.
Yeah.
Been waiting for this for a year. Right.
Okay.
Scotland forever.
Oh, gosh, it's a really Lancashire. That's a bit closer to home. Kerry in St Albans. Kerry's down the road from me. Hi, Kerry.
It's a big Zoom day.
Okay, so shall I start sharing my screen now? We're going to look.
No, let's talk about first, before we get going, let's just talk a little bit about something that we call the Holy Trinity of documentary photography, of documentary.
Does anyone know what that is? Can anyone offer?
You put it in chat if you think you know what it is.
You know what you think it is?
Yeah.
People who've done our course are not allowed to answer.
No. Amanda, light moment composition, your first one. Yeah, Celine, great.
Yeah.
So yes, it's light. Well, we kind of talk about light composition moment in that order.
Yeah.
So first of all, light is important, and especially for documentary family photography, because as a documentary photographer, you need to learn to deal and love, if not love, but learn to work with all sorts of light, essentially.
So there's so much talked about the beautiful golden hour and blue hour in morning and evening light. When you're photographing any sort of documentary, whether it's family documentary, a wedding, or whether it's photojournalism, you're kind of in the field and you just got to deal with whatever's there, and light being one of those factors. So you just have to learn. Perhaps you don't end up loving all light, but you need to learn how to manage all light.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean like we obviously still get excited about the beautiful evening light and golden hour and early morning light in the winter. Oh my God, lush. But we can love it, one type of light, but we need to be able to learn with all sorts of light, even when there's no light. Well, when there's no light, that's the only impossible situation, and you need to introduce light of some kind or not take a picture.
I mean, when I first started photography years and years ago, I'd be like, "Oh no, I can only shoot in the golden hour."
There's really, no golden hour in the UK.
There is none for starts. You can't shoot for many days of the year, which is very handy. But like you're limiting yourself so much. Putting those kind of like limitations or those like barriers to what you can and can't shoot. You're missing so much, and I think that's kind of one of the things that led me to realizing that actually manufacturing things when the situation is perfect is actually really boring, and not very authentic. But being able to be good enough to capture something that's actually happening, that's real and cool and fun and interesting, and manage all of the things that aren't actually perfect at the same time, it's actually a really good, interesting problem for your brain.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to
It's a really good challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so the next part of the Holy Trinity is composition, and the composition is how we take control of the uncontrollable, essentially. Again, with documentary photography, with its family, with its photojournalism, anything, weddings even. It's uncontrollable. Like, you can't tell them what to do. You don't know often what they're going to do. And there's mess all around.
It's just as you can't control
Yeah.
the light. It's just a given situation on a given moment. You can't direct the people. That's not quite. You can't really move things around. You can't turn lights on and off. You can't tell people to move into a prettier place. You've got to be able to have the tools in your toolbox, and that's composition and camera technique and how to use light to make the most of the situation that's being presented to you.
Yeah.
And that then brings you onto moment, which is the thing that all of the other things are the scaffolding.
Yeah, and the moment is like the
moment.
ultimate.
Yeah, the moment. You can't manufacture these great moments, but you need to have the tools to scaffold around it so that you can really
when the moment does happen, you're
yeah,
basically ready to capture it.
and you can show it, and you can show it in the best way.
Yeah, exactly. Well, might be a basic question, but is flash allowed in documentary if you don't change direct the people or change anything else in the surrounding?
Flash is an interesting one. Some people, I think it's a personal preference.
I think
But
so.
you know, I mean, when you say
it depends on the kind of flash. If you're going to set up like umbrellas and things, that stops being documentary very, very quickly.
I don't have a problem with it personally. Some people have a problem with it because there's the theory that the flash might disturb the moment. But like, when you're there as a photographer, you're slightly interfering with the moment anyway, because that's an unnatural thing. So I think as long as you're not really interfering in a way that it changes how people are, I think it's okay.
Yeah, there's some documentary photographers that shoot with flash and really beautifully as well.
Oh yeah, lots of them.
Yeah,
some like famous ones and some kind of other
well,
ones.
Martin Parr to begin with.
Yeah, Martin Parr.
You're gonna look at one of his pictures, hey?
Bruce Gilden. There's and then there's like more kind of normal people as well who are less famous.
Normal people.
Who's flash.
So we're gonna look at some of the greats, so to speak. And when reviewing all sort of images, we're bearing this Holy Trinity in mind, basically. And not every image will have all the elements nailed, like modern composition, but the strongest images have all three, and good images have at least two. Basically, that's kind of the simple.
You kind of grade your images by looking at the Holy Trinity. Because sometimes it is a great moment and you composed it really well, but the light is a bit flat, and that's not your fault.
No,
it just means that it just wasn't there at the time, and it didn't elevate the image to the next level.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll share my screen now.
Yep.
I think I have to do it like this.
I forgot to have to share your screen.
Oh no, because I was going to click on it. I thought, but then it doesn't work if I the pictures. Can everyone see this? I can't see everyone's. I can't see anything.
I'll keep an eye on chat because you have a shared screen.
Okay, so we had 6, but we've decided to just look at 3 because we didn't think we'd have time to really kind of discuss these and then give enough time to looking at pictures. You guys, because I know that's it's really valuable to look at other people's pictures, and your to watch critiques of other people's pictures, but also of your own. You get different things because you're more emotionally attached to your own images, and you know the backstory and things. So sometimes it's actually easier to understand when you're looking at other people's images. And obviously, like, it's great looking at famous people's images, but I appreciate that we want to get through as many of you guys as possible. So I've tried to find, like, so I know everyone knows this image, the migrant mother, but I wanted to talk about that one because it's a more of a portrait, environmental portrait, but there's a lovely moment in it. But I was trying to find pictures that people wouldn't necessarily know, even though they're by famous photographers. I actually have to remind myself of the name of this guy because it's not one that I know very well. It is, I don't know if I'm saying it right either, Qian Chi Chang, who is a Magnum photographer. And he's a Chinese migrant in New York City, and he famously photographed the Chinese migrant community, because obviously here one of the key things with them, if you're sort of more on a photojournalistic level, is to have access, and obviously he's part of that community, so he had great access to his subjects.
Yeah, and I think it's really important. That's a completely separate conversation, but I think it's really important as a documentary photographer, if you're working on like social projects or like social community projects, that you don't exploit your subjects. And if you're part of the community, that's like almost a no-brainer. That's what you need to photograph, because you're part of them, you know the story, you know the background.
Yeah. So
you can tell the story sensitively as well, with sort of that knowledge of what things mean in a context.
There's no, there's you're not taking advantage of anyone because you're part of that people, and you understand all of the any problems and barriers. So you're accepted and you have access. But I think there's an understanding that you know what you need to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's have a look at the composition now, because I think this is really, really clever how it's done, and also in such limited space, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, the guy, he's obviously standing on the balcony with his friend, perhaps, or acquaintance from his community. It's a fantastic composition. You've got. Should I draw? I love
Yes,
drawing.
please. Everyone loves Emma's red pen, myself included.
I love drawing on here. So if you look at the real estate of the picture, I mean, the thirds are a sort of classic thing that you learn very early on in your photography journey. But it's actually a really good way of looking at the real estate of a photograph to see that you're using the space well. And I think this is a really great example of the information filling the frame. From corner to corner, from edge to edge, there's something going on in all of it, and it's so carefully positioned that you've got the main part of the story is all in this third. In fact, the guy himself is lined up pretty nicely with the third, and then you've got the other third. There's no negative space. It's being used really effectively to show his location, and that kind of the sort of juxtaposition between how he's behaving or dressed with the place that he's in. And it shows that lovely contrast of how people maintain perhaps their cultural identity and their cultural, what they're used to doing at home, and they bring it with them when they have moved abroad. But not only that, you've got all these fantastic lines that are swooping in from the left-hand corner, just all kind of leading you to this guy here.
Yeah, absolutely. And the juxtaposition, obviously, you just talked about juxtaposition of a city with quite a homey, intimate scene, essentially, is really cleverly done. And the lines, as you say, they all lead to like what you want with a picture often. So there's definitely value to a very simple capture when it's maybe a portrait, there's nothing else, you're just looking at the face, for example. And you can read the picture really, really quickly, and you sort of move on. And that's what does really well on Instagram, because as you scroll, you kind of go, oh, I like it, nice. But as you start creating images with more complicated and complex compositions, in, say, an exhibition setting, or if you're looking at a photo book, the goal is to actually keep people looking at the picture longer, because your eye just keeps traveling and keeps looking and keeps seeing new things all the time.
Yeah. So you've got, I mean, here, like the light is quite a diffused light, so it's not really the part of the picture that sings, but the composition and the story and the moment are so strong that it just comes together in this amazing picture. I've still got a line on there. You know, the way he's holding the relaxed nature of his stance. He's clearly comfortable with who he's with. You know, the fact that he's sipping from his soup bowl with his chopsticks ready in his hand, and you know, the thongs. He's, you know, just sitting in his pants. It's a really lovely moment, and with his shoulder, his elbow resting on the bar on the balcony. It feels really, he feels very relaxed, like he doesn't know the picture's being taken, which obviously he does, but he's so relaxed in the company that it feels completely authentic and natural.
Yeah. Shall we go to the next one? I'm just mindful that we can talk about each picture for hours, literally. But
I also love that, actually, obviously, because it's quite dim, the light here. The photographer's obviously not used a super fast shutter speed, because you can see that there's a little bit of motion in the traffic,
which is
really
really adds
lovely.
to the picture.
Yeah, it really adds to it. Oh, hold on. I need to stop annotating. Okay, so this one is from the famous Martin Parr. Certainly any British people in the audience probably know him.
So he's well known to photographing like just everyday scenes in England and in the UK in general.
Beach scenes,
and
actually.
beach a lot, yeah.
He really loves anything that's very quintessentially British, and the British seaside is one of his favourite places, because there is something quintessentially British about British seasides, which you don't
People
find
just getting
in
red.
other places, like, you know, like deck chairs and people sunbathing, getting bright red and being cramped, like, yeah, I don't know, eating fish and chips, also, you know, there's some things that are very specific to the UK, and he's very good at observing that. But I think what we wanted to talk about in this picture was how you make sense of a really busy scene like this. I mean, there's just a quick head count: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 really visible people, and there's still people that I haven't counted on here. So how do you make sense of a scene like that? And he has, yeah.
Because often, kind of just bringing it back to family documentary, a lot of the time when we start in photography and we sort of try and document our kids being out and about, the first instinct that I think a lot of people have, and I certainly had that, is to try and like pretend there's no one else on the beach or in the city and like just photograph my child. Or
we're so focused
on the family that you're photographing.
Yeah, we're so intent on trying to get a beautiful picture, a beautiful portrait of the person, that you forget that actually context is really important, because that's what adds to the story. And when you're looking back at pictures, it's so funny, I mean, because I'm exactly the same as Antonina. You know, when my kids were really little, I'd try and take beautiful pictures of them, and I look back, I think, well, where were we? Where was everyone else? What were we actually doing?
Yeah.
Whereas this is the reality, yeah, but equally it's a portrait of one guy. It's almost the only person who's facing the camera. It's very much a portrait of him. I love the necklace that's over to one side. And
he's dead center as well. Like, I love that thing about it. So we talk a lot about thirds, and that traditionally you'd have advice that you should place the important elements of your composition on the thirds or intersection of the thirds, but it's not always the case. I mean, he's in that third. If you again,
if you look at, you can see that he's used the composition of he's used the thirds. So you've got the third of the C at the top, and it gives a little breathing space, having the very bit of blank C across the top, and then you've got this sort of third at the bottom, roughly. But he's dead center in this bottom third here. Dead center, and it's so arresting. There's no mistaking who this photo is about. But at the same time, because there's so much else going on, the detail and the story that's there, you know, it's jam-packed. The red and white deck chairs are so they're just so British, aren't they? You know, people walking around with bellies and boobs hanging out, tattoos, red skin, kids with caps on. There's not much sun protection. You know, people, there's quite a lot of people without sun protection on. Got, you know, bags, trainers, picnic blankets, swimming towels. It's a super busy scene, and there's so much to look at. Your eye just keeps finding new things to see.
That's really interesting. And you sort of, there's also attempts that talking about including different elements in the frame beyond your main subject. There's a timestamp here. You can sort of, from that pram, you can tell that it's not a vintage picture necessarily. It's more,
And that's what
in this century taken, right?
I mean, when you're looking at your own family, you know the age because you know the age of your children in the picture, so you can roughly place it. But when you're looking at someone else is looking at a picture, it's really nice to be able to give that sort of sense of time and place. The other thing that I think is really clever about this is when you think about the number of people, how he's timed it so that everyone's in so many people are in a really clean space that you can see where they are, and you can see their shape, their sort of human form. So you know that's a really important thing. Obviously, you want your main, when you're talking about your main characters, you want them to be clean, but to be able to place lots of other people in clean spaces so they're easy to read is really important too.
There's nothing worse than, well, they're kind of merging there in the background, but there's nothing worse than people who you want to be subjects are kind of merging or distracting. I got distracted by a little bug.
I think
Right, let's move on to the migrant mother, I think, because I just want to make sure that we get to everyone's pick like just as soon as possible. That's a famous image, obviously everyone knows it. And speaking of photography ethics, I think that one wasn't particularly ethically taken by today's standards. Let's put it.
This was in the era where people weren't thinking like that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And but it's such a tender portrait. We wanted to put a portrait in. I mean, although as we said, the picture before is a portrait. You know, it's really interesting how you can create portraits like this in a really busy sense. This is a very much of an environmental portrait, and quite an exciting one. This is a very classic portrait, but it has that sense of documenting in it. You know, there's a lot of information in there. You can tell the poverty, you can see the poverty in their clothes and cleanliness. And it's what the reason why we wanted to talk about it is that idea of moment, and how moment can be something so very subtle. You know, it doesn't have to be some grand gesture or someone jumping in the air and capturing them in mid-flight. It can be something just as the tension in her brow. You can see the crumpled skin and the concern in her eyes and the way she's pulling the side of her mouth. It's so subtle but so beautiful.
And then again, like you can think about the thirds. So there's like thirds there a little bit, right? With the children behind her forming.
Yeah, so you've got each person is in their own third.
Yeah.
And actually, I like the idea of imperfect symmetry, because as humans, we're not. It's and when in documentary and when you're not setting something up, to get perfect symmetry is not really a possibility, but you can have an imperfect symmetry. So here you've got that sort of central. Whoops, that's a bit wobbly. Central line where the main character is sitting, but both the children are leaning in such a similar way from both sides, and they're both leaning into the picture and into their mother, which takes you to her face again. It's leading their gesture, acting like a leading line to the mum.
Yeah, and again, like you hear about leading lines, but leading lines don't have to be like physical lines, right? Straight lines that you take a picture from a certain angle. It can literally be different elements of the frame that don't read as lines consciously, but subconsciously they still lead you towards the main subject or the main purpose of the picture.
So really from this take, you know, these very tiny little moments, these like lines on her face and that lovely tender way she's touching her mouth, you can feel the concern, the worry. It's such a gentle moment, but it's still there.
Yeah. And there's a lot to kind of, even such a simple capture, there's a lot to sit with and spot. The longer you look at it, the more you see, basically.
It's interesting the comparison between something like, well, actually the first two pictures, they're quite busy and your eyes darting all over the place, but there's something so soft and enigmatic and that you just can't stop looking at this.
Mm.
You know, the detail in the scruffy hair and the dirty hands. It's just there's so much to look at, even in a frame like this.
Amanda is asking, can you context why this image wasn't taken ethically? So basically the permission wasn't granted, really. You can even see from the children that they're sort of turning away from the camera, which tells me that they didn't really want to be photographed.
But to put it in context like that, it's many years ago, and that wasn't something people did then, and we've learnt
since, yeah. So
time,
she didn't
yeah,
exactly give her consent to then be like everywhere in all magazines, everywhere in all covers, in museums, etc. That's something you would never do now.
the benefit from other people's
Misery.
Misery is not ethical.
Anyone has any more questions before we go on to the pictures that you guys submitted? Pop them in the chat. So we've had quite a few images submitted. Unfortunately, for time, we only have like an hour and a half, and we want to leave some time to answer your questions as well. So we've kind of selected a few.
Yeah, we quickly
we
whizzed through.
Would be beneficial for everyone to like see discussed.
So we're not picking like favorites or anything like that. It's when it's pictures that have jumped out where we think, oh, we could talk about something in here.
Yeah.
So don't be disappointed if you don't see your photo. It's really nothing personal. It's just that we wanted to talk about pictures that had some learning points.
Some learning points, and that are kind of applicable to everyone. Obviously, like if you're mentoring with us, whatever you submit, then we critique that. But for these purposes, we had to narrow it down.
So we've got 18. I don't know if we'll get through them all because it's we've got about an hour and 15 minutes.
Well, hour and yeah, something like that.
And then we'll want 15 minutes of question and answers.
If by the way, if you see that we're talking about your picture, feel free to unmute yourself and kind of chip in terms of like give us context, or if we're saying, oh, you could have done that, but you go, well, there was no space to do that. Please talk to us. That'll be really interesting to discuss.
Yeah, sometimes when you're looking at a picture, we'll be saying things, and it will be things that where there were limitations, you had no space and you couldn't move. So it's really great to. Other times, we might find a picture confusing, and you know the information that can enlighten us, but actually, in reality, if that is not translating in the picture, that's a learning point already that other people can't understand what's happening. So even if you know the story behind it, that has to come across in a picture for it to be a good picture, if that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Right. So we picked this one mainly because it's got quite a nice moment to it. It's the timing of the click of the shutter here was quite good, because you've got the child reaching with their fingers and hands as well as making a good facial expression. You can tell that it's something they want, that it's something yummy. I don't know what it is. It doesn't. I thought it was a marshmallow, but I don't think it is a marshmallow.
I don't know, some sweet
or something.
It does look like a sweet thing.
Yeah. I can't tell here whether this light has been added with like a vignette and darkened on the corners, or whether it was like a funnel of light.
I think it was a funnel of light. We would have. That's
quite interesting. If it's a funnel of light, it's really nicely positioned in that.
Yeah. So I think it maybe has been brightened a little bit, but I don't think that whole funnel is artificial.
No, I was more thinking whether the corners were dark.
The corners. Yeah.
whether they've been darkened artificially.
Oh yeah. I don't know. If it's your picture, let us know.
Yeah. So that's kind of changing the picture in a way a little too much for me. If it was a funnel of light like this, then it's great positioning because you've got the child in the shaft of light. And some nice sort of texture and things behind.
Yeah.
You've also got like a, detail. Is this where we're talking about context and things? Details like hats and coats and things give you that sense of what temperature and what time of year it is. So those are really nice details as well. Equally, I think this could have worked as well if it was a tighter crop.
That's kind of what I was thinking, because we don't need
'Cause we
that part of the body really. It's the hands and the face.
Yeah, this is kind of what I was getting at when I was talking about if the person has shadowed this, because it does look to me like it might have been shadowed. And I think that's probably because they're thinking, oh, there's
Too much
space
empty
we don't
space.
need. So remember what we were saying about using your real estate. So if you use your third here, all of the cool stuff is going on really actually in this very middle third here, which is why
There's nothing, unlike the pictures we just looked at of the, the greats, there's nothing going on in the empty third.
Yeah. So you could potentially have got in closer, and because the hand of the adult and the stick is interesting, and maybe gone in like this. So you're really focusing in on the thing that's really interesting.
I wonder if it was possible, if it's your child and your partner, if it was possible to photograph it sort of from the point of view of the grown-up.
Yeah, that's the other thing that bothers me actually, that it's sideways on.
Yeah, it's not a natural point of view.
Yeah, I feel like I want it. Can I turn this around?
I think that arrow at the top there, not here. Yeah, this
Oh,
one.
I tell you what, it's hidden under my commands.
Uh,
Yeah. I feel like that would be a more natural place to take the picture, to see the natural way of seeing the picture, and then it does feel like it's from the point of view of the parent, because that's how we're looking at the picture in the same way as we would be if we were the parent. Whereas in that direction, we're looking at it side on.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's move on.
Just a reminder, guys, if you have any questions just about anything that we're discussing, feel free to pop them in the chat.
So the main thing we wanted to say about this one,
it's like an interesting, I just want to rephrase it by saying that's an interesting picture, because obviously you're trying to capture a family gathering.
Yeah.
With lots and lots of people, and it's never easy to photograph when there's lots and lots of people, to make sure everyone is kind of represented, and also the mood is represented and everything.
What we wanted to say is, and great for stepping away to do it, but if you again look at the real estate that you've got in the picture, and there's nothing happening up here, and there's nothing happening down here, and yet you've got people that are really tight here that you're almost missing on the sides. So really, if you had turned your camera to be in portrait mode, you would have got a picture like this, and you'd
had landscape mode.
Sorry, landscape mode, wrong word. And you'd have got a photograph like this, where you would have caught more of the people, which I think is what you were aiming for, and it would have been full of the thing that was what you wanted to photograph, rather than having the excess space that's not used efficiently. It's not using that space.
So sometimes sort of thinking, we talk a lot, I think when we did the Instagram live on Monday, we talked about how in the moment often you panic and you might make wrong decisions as to how to capture a scene better, or sort of shoot, spray and pray, or if you may be used to photographing one way, you don't think to turn your camera another way. So if you're used to doing portraits, like with a telephoto lens, for example, it's always worth pausing and thinking and observing the scene with your eyes first. Maybe not necessarily with the eyes first, actually, because I think better if I have my camera like that, because then I'm blocking out distractions.
But if you think of the shape of the thing that you're photographing, then it gives you an idea of which way round you should be taking the picture, which is why it's called portrait and landscape, because a person generally is just a little drawing.
I'll do that.
This shape.
I just want to say, so we have a comment from Caitlin who took a picture. There are two walls on either side, that, like, looking through a doorway, that would have also given empty space.
But you could have got closer. You need to move your feet and then you would have filled the frame. Yeah? Because
Do you want to unmute Caitlin and talk us through this?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, hi, thank you. So the shot was taken from my kitchen into the dining room, and I actually wanted it to kind of look like, kind of like an imperfect shot. So my son is actually sitting on the edge of the table, and I actually wanted him to be cut out a little bit more.
Oh, I see the baby, like
with
the toddler person.
Yeah. And had I done landscape, there still would have been empty space on either side.
Okay, I see. So there's like a door, literal door that you're shooting through, right?
So it would have been like a closet and then a wall had I stepped back or taken it landscape. Because this actually isn't zoomed in or cropped or anything. This is just how I took it.
I wonder if, like, you could have actually included a little bit of the door to give that context that you should through something.
So are you actually in the other room looking through the door?
Kind of. I was probably, I would say, 6 feet back from the table.
But are you in another room looking through the door, or are you in the same room?
It's kind of like it's partially connected. So it's like from my kitchen goes into my my dining room just through a little, I wouldn't say hallway, or just like an arch kind of.
Yeah, interesting.
Explain why you didn't want your son in the picture.
It just because I was trying to give a lot of the photos that I've been taking include him, so I just wanted a little bit of variety without him in every single shot.
Right. I think just from what you're saying, like, I think it would have been interesting if that is the situation. Actually, to like maybe even include that empty space on the side will feel more natural, I think, than doing it this way, just visually.
This feels extremely like you're a bit like you're in some nightmare kind of scenario where the walls are closing in and compressing and squashing you, like some doors are or something, because it's an unnatural way to take.
So I'm just looking at the settings now.
Image.
So I can see that you're shooting with a 50mm lens. Caitlin?
Sorry, I got muted again. Say that again.
You're shooting with a 50mm lens. Is that the only lens that you have?
No, I have 24 to 105 as well.
Okay.
So I think with the 50 in this space that feels rather small, maybe not a good decision in terms of the lens length, because it does limit your options somewhat. Whereas if you have it 24 and just go to 24, then you can actually step forward.
You have to go so far back to be able to fit enough in if you're with a 50. It's quite a close distance.
A great lens for a portrait, but not so much for lots of people in a small room.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this shot wasn't something that I had like premeditated or planned. It was just a family gathering and my camera was sitting there and I said, I'll just take a photo. But I didn't want to take a photo that was like, everybody lean in and look at the camera.
That makes sense.
I wanted it to feel like the person who's looking at it feels more like they're sitting at the table with us.
Okay, so if that was your intention, I would actually say get a 24. So is it 24 to 100 and something, right? It's not the best for dark scenarios because of the zoom, but still you can stick in 24 and get real close. So we talk in the course a lot about how the feeling of a photo, the lens that you use affects the feeling that you get in the photo.
Mm.
And if
Affects
you
how
use,
affects how the viewer,
yeah,
so it's looking at the picture, how we perceive our position in relation to the people that are in the photo. So something like a 50 mil, because you're standing back to get enough space around the picture, which you would have had more space to fit that in if you'd have turned it to portrait, but still to landscape. But still, you have to step back, so it feels like you're watching from afar. If you want that feeling of being in, like you're at the table, you need to be using a wide angle lens and actually being, if you were sitting on, like almost sitting on that chair with a 24 mil, then you probably would have fitted quite a lot of people in.
and it would feel like you're right there
at the table.
because you're right there.
You are. The point is, where you're standing, because of what lens you choose, that's what people see. If you want to get the impression that you're sitting at the table, you need a lens that enables you to sit
You
at the
need
table.
to sit at the table.
That would give that feeling,
Yeah.
if that's what you want.
Yeah, so try next time, maybe try like stick your zoom on and leave it on 24 and do not touch it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's an exercise.
Sellotape
Force
it.
yourself.
So that you
Yeah,
can't.
sellotape
Yeah.
it, sellotape it.
Sellotape it up.
That's
But
an exercise we ask people to do sometimes, especially if you're not used to like shooting on wide. It can be quite a brain bending exercise, but you have to stick with it to like really get a feel for it. Because 50s are very, very safe. And I shot with a 50 for like 6-7 years and swore I never shoot with anything else. That 50 is my best lens. And it takes like, honestly, on 1.4 as well.
do you have these safety blanket, like it's like having a security blanket?
Blankie, yeah, that's my blankie.
Yeah, closely shooting. I only use a 50 mil lens. I only shoot at golden hour. I only shoot with it wide open at 1.8. You know, all of these
You
things.
have to start like breaking yourself a little bit in that regard. So that's your challenge, Caitlin.
Yeah.
Basically, we're setting you a challenge.
Well, thank you very much.
But make sure when you are looking at a scene, try and assess what shape it is. Is it, you know, the reason why something's called a portrait lens is because people are that shape. Yeah. And so the frame fits the shape of them. A landscape photo, if you think about landscape, you've got like, you know, mountains and sea and the sun and stuff, you know. This is my sunshine.
Oh, wait a second. I need to take a picture of this.
So, you know, it's a landscape goes out to the sides. So assess what shape it is that you're photographing. And really, if you look at this, you've got a wide picture with lots of people in it. It's a landscape photograph because there's nothing up here and there's nothing down here. So it just feels like it's too tight on the people and you could have given yourself so much more space.
Okay.
Let's move on. I'm the time. So as you people will probably learn soon enough, I'm the timekeeper and Emma is the talker. So I go like, okay, Emma, that's enough. Let's keep going.
So we just wanted to look at this one because it's got some really nice shapes in it. Shapes that the photographer, I assume, has noticed as a backdrop. You know, they've really carefully used the rug. And I feel like they've waited for a nice moment here as well. You know, they've got oh, sorry. You know, the little boy is just reaching up here.
Okay, let's not gender people. Reminder.
Yeah, true. Girl, boy, girl, child is reaching up here onto the toy.
Yep.
And I'm just going to take those off. You've got some really lovely angles, like this angle here of the knee and the elbow of there, and you've got a little V here. So all these little triangles are really lovely.
Angles and lines that are not straight, like not vertical or horizontal, they often give sort of dynamism to the picture.
Yeah.
And they can be all sorts of angles. It can be an angle of a room, angle of a body, angle of anything. And so looking out for them is really good practice because that always adds a bit of
If you picture a zigzaggy line, it's clearly more interesting than a straight line. It's the same thing when you're looking at all of these different angles. It makes the picture sort of snap. It just makes you look at all these different shapes. It kind of takes your eye all over the place. So this part of this image is really strong. I like it, and I love that it's the child is framed really beautifully in this eye shape with their hands just being on the edges, which is really, really lovely. I think the trouble with a top-down photograph is that people become blobs. Now the child is lying down, so you've got all this lovely human form. And actually the fact that they're looking this way, you've got the lovely profile of the face as well. You've got the outstretched limbs and the legs, so you've got this lovely shape to the body. The parent, however, is like blobby because you're looking over the top of them, and they just become a blob like that. So I think that it would have been, and also the other thing I find that there's some really great colors here, blues, there's a blue thing here, some blue clothes, you've got the blue around the edge of the carpet, and then you've got the reds and things, and the red hair, and the warm colored hair, and the red circle and everything, which is lovely. So what I've got a problem with is this bright bunch of colors right on the edge of the frame, and on the edge, you'll hear us talking about edges all the time if you join our course. If anything's on the edge that's distracting, your eye will go to it all the time. So I can't stop looking at this on this corner. And you've also got
as soon as you see it, you like literally can't unsee it.
Can't stop unseeing, yeah. And you've got the blobby parent. So the perfect way to change that is just to come in a bit tighter, really. So if you came into here, I do like these little pants on the side, but I think it's better to kind of lose them.
You can go a little bit on the bottom a little bit. Can you include the knee? You can see a bit of that. Is it going to be distracting? So that's better. Can you see how much
better?
It
you see, just taking this out makes such a difference.
And then there's less of a blob of a parent, just slightly less, but it makes
makes the blob slightly less important. Because again, let's look at the real estate of the frame again. If you divide it up into our thirds, so you've got this bit is just dark and not much happening, and all of the
that is really interesting.
Yeah. So if you just make that little adjustment with the hold on, by bringing the frame slightly closer in and losing a bit of the parent, they become a less prominent part of the frame. So let's see that, and then if we put we annotate, now they're not filling a third of the frame, they're filling this like a sixth of the frame. If you kind of draw that line there, it's a sixth of the frame, so it becomes less important, and it really makes you look at the important part, all of these lovely details in the frame.
So I think it's important just to note that ideally you'd make that decision while you're actually shooting. You will see that distracting musical instrument thing, and you will just move a little bit closer. But if
be aware of all of the things. It's a really it's a deductive form of art, photography. If you think about when you're painting or multimedia, drawing, pencil, you're adding things to a page. In photography, it's reductive. You reduce what's there to what's important, because there's so much in front of you. You have to make those choices of what to include and what not to include.
Yeah, I love that quote. That's Saint-Exupéry said that perfection is achieved when when there's nothing left to add, but when there's nothing left to take away.
Yeah, exactly.
So just to go back to my point, so ideally you would do that while you're shooting, you will notice that, but let's face it, we don't always do that. So there's nothing wrong with cropping a little bit out
And
in
this is a tweak. This is a
the tweak.
small adjustment.
Um, it's better to do that than to have a picture that is not quite there and there's a distraction element. So Emma, can you just crop it like really tightly to show what not to do? Like
So,
if you were to like crop it dramatically, then it's not.
oh, I see. Okay, sorry, I see what you mean. So if you decided to go like this, just to get the child reaching, say, you think,
Yeah.
oh, that's interesting. I'm going to crop it so I can just see the child's arm reaching. That's like changing the picture that you had in mind. You didn't see that in the moment and you've taken something different. And you're going to obviously reduce the quality of it as well.
That's one thing. It's not going to work, but also just don't do that.
But what you might have found if you had really thought about this in the moment, you might have been able to very slightly change your angle and go, let me draw what I mean because it's easier. Maybe gone in this, hold on, that's not what I want to show. Maybe gone in this sort of, oh,
What are you trying to?
I'm trying to show like that sort of angle. Obviously, it's not, I'm cutting that. I'm just trying to show you the angle I'm talking about because that would have got rid of this thing, but you might have been able to include the pants on the underwear on the side, which is
So you
cute.
say stand behind the parent. Is that
Yeah. No, or just take it on more of an angle.
Oh, tilt. But then
tilt it. Yeah. I don't know. I can't tell.
Okay.
Whether it would work. Obviously, you position yourself so you'd still get the arm in and things, I can't show that on the screen. But what I'm just saying is that if you'd have thought about it in the moment, rather than thinking, here we're trimming it afterwards to get rid of that thing, you might have been able to do it so that you could include some of those and kept that detail in because this is a cute detail.
Yeah.
And it's not distracting because it's not the brightest, most colourful thing. Whereas this is distracting.
Yeah. Right, let's go to the next.
Okay. So I kind of like to talk about this one because it's a super busy scene, a very, very feels like a home scene, a house scene with laundry everywhere. This is my house looks a bit like this, so it feels it's how do you capture this and capture it well?
Yeah, and I think it's a great start, but we want to talk about it in terms of like, is there anything better that was possible to do? Because what I love about this is that no one's merging. So the mom, the dad, I assume, and the child are both in their own places. They're not like merging with heads or bodies, and they're kind of all, maybe not so much the child, but the parents are in a fairly like empty space in terms of figure to ground.
There's some nice things like you've got this sort of red theme popping through the image, which I quite like, which does lead your eye around. So there's lots of red and blue, which is kind of nice. The position of the kid, I like that they're stretching out into the basket.
And I love how they're using the kids thing for
to rest the basket on. I love the dad actually because he looks really sleepy and got this big pile of clothes. But I like the dad more than the mum. I think the mum's actually sort of eyeline is looking at the child, but there's something a bit blank about her expression, even though she's got tension with the clothes that she's pulling. There's something about her expression that doesn't feel alive enough.
It's that in terms of moments, I think we talk a lot about like there's the build up to the moment, right? And then there's a moment, and then there's like the build down. And maybe she's in that kind of in between moment where she's not really doing anything particularly.
Yeah.
It's always like, I want to acknowledge it's tricky. The more people you add, the harder it is to make sure that everyone has a moment.
And in a situation like this, I mean, there could be loads of different photographs that you could take from this scene. So we're only looking at this particular photograph. I mean, I think there could be a lovely photograph looking, just to say, towards the child like this. in that direction, with the feet below and the hands reaching above, and you just see the basket with the arms and legs behind it. That could be really cute. There could be something there, but we're just looking at the picture as it is here now, rather than trying to anticipate other things that you could have done. And I think really, to me, the strongest part of this image is the red and blue theme. I wonder whether there's any way of having gone in a bit closer to just focus on that. Could you take it in? I don't know. And take the parents' faces out of it somehow, or even the child's. So you've just got, I don't know, quite like the little kid. Can you bring the kid in?
Maybe keep someone in.
Kid in. I don't know. It's tricky. It's a really tricky scene because it's busy, but there is a red and blue thing going on. So work, if you can spot that sort of thing in the field, then work with it.
I think there's one thing that's definitely distracting me is that red thing at the top.
This bit here, up here. Yeah.
But you can't crop it out because the dad.
It's a tricky thing. I think
I also wonder if there was a picture like from right behind the kid as well.
Yeah.
That would have been fun.
Maybe it's can you take it so that you do lose that thing?
Maybe.
And you lose the bottom of this chair. Because I find the mechanics of this chair being in this corner a little bit distracting as well. And maybe it's just getting in a little bit tighter. And that cleans it up around the edges. You feel like you're more in there, folding clothes with them.
Maybe.
So it's really trying to solve the problems that you're encountering, and looking for the things that work and trying to remove the things that don't. So it's like that reductive system. So beware of things like this red thing, because you need to try and take that out. Beware of this, because it's in the corner. It's really distracting because it's, yeah.
I'm just thinking also there are scenes where things are moving so fast that
I don't feel like this is one though.
But this one, that's what I'm saying. But this one, not one of those. So I'm sure you've had lots of
parents are usually slower, aren't they? It's kids that are moving, and the kid is seated, so it's about the parents. And I think whoever took this photo has got, like you said at the beginning, they've got the parents and the child in clean spaces, but then it's a matter of adjusting those edges, making sure you're aware of what's on the edge of the frame, stepping in maybe, and then waiting for something to happen more interesting.
Yeah. And I just want to remind everyone, when we just sort of dissect each image, we always, even the most brilliant image, we'll always find something that could have been done better. So it's not a criticism, it's constructive feedback. For anyone who's like worried.
And this sort of scene is a tricky scene. So
it is, yeah. There's no doubt about it.
This is a really
I just want to pick up on settings really quickly. It looks like it's a bright day, but ISO is 800 and shutter is 180.
Yeah.
8,000, yeah.
I think the aperture is quite good at 4 because you're picking up quite a lot of detail from the distance where you're standing, and you're focused towards the back, so it extends the depth of field. But yeah, the ISO could.
Actually, now you've cropped it a little bit. I just noticed there's a bit of a curtain in that.
Yeah, there is.
Picture, and that's kind of distracting as well. So
yeah, it is much nicer, tighter like this, I think.
Yeah, much better. Right.
But I think, yeah, it is bright enough that you could push the shutter up a bit more.
Potentially, yeah.
Just to be.
I don't mind necessarily the motion blur here because it kind of adds.
No, I don't mind that there's a bit of motion blur on here. It's more just that there could be camera shake at that point.
Yeah, some people are really good.
I don't think this person hasn't got camera shake, but it's a danger zone, isn't it? At 180. Yeah. Although it's a 23, you're not going to get as much. Okay. I actually think that that we're tweaking the edges and it's a reasonable job of a difficult scene, this.
Yeah.
So we quite like this one.
It's Claire. Claire, are you here? Let's say hi.
Hello, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hi, Claire.
Hi, Claire.
Like this one.
Hello.
How are you? Just
Right.
wanted to see. I feel like it's
So
not
we
quite.
picked this because we thought it was like an interesting, again, several subjects, each of them in a reasonably clean space.
Mhm.
But you want to talk us through like what you were trying to do here and what the situation was?
Yeah, this
So just full disclosure, Claire has done training case into art, so she kind of knows the drill.
yeah. I had all your voices in my head all the time when I was taking pictures. But this was my son's birthday party. He's not in the shot, but at the end of the party, they were allowed to just kind of go crazy and just run around this indoor parkour center. And there was this sort of scene really captured me because it had this giant mural on the wall of the name of the place, and then you know, the kids could bounce off this apparatus on the right and jump over this huge wall and land on the cushions and basically just go crazy. And in this shot, the boy on the right and the boy on the far left are brothers, and so whenever there's brothers involved in anything, it ramps up another level of chaos.
Violence.
Two boys, I understand this. Yeah, so they really started going for it, and so I just stood on the side and just sort of kept snapping away.
Yeah, no, I think you've done a really great job of it because you've positioned yourself really well. You've held your position. You've fished for it. You know, you've made sure that you've got the mural central in the frame, and at the same time you've got the. I quite like that you've got the thing where they run in to the frame on the right, bounce on here, and then they jump over onto that, and then that leads out of the frame. This is what I would call edge tension because the mat is leading out of the frame to the left, which suggests that they could be bouncing and tumbling all the way along. So it takes your eye because this guy's looking in this direction and running towards it. It leads you right over here, the guy falling over, and it takes you right out the other side. So you've got that motion and continuity of the activity that they would be doing themselves, which is nice. And it's also great color, this picture as well. You've kind of reduced it down to a couple of colors. There is a little bit of red here, Claire.
I know, I saw that and it irritated me intensely.
You know, I'm going to say that.
I know.
So
I like one thing I'm wondering is though, like, so I'm going to add a completely different point of view. So this makes a great shot for the place, like to send them overground. It advertises the place. But is there a way to take a picture that isn't that and focuses on the action? So it doesn't. I know you like that. You said you like that mural. But I'm thinking of all sorts of dangerous situations I could ask you to get into.
Yeah, I know, and there was, and this place is huge. I mean, I got lots of shots from this place. There was some other to the right. I mean, it's just vast, this area. There was so much potential, some of which I would have had to put myself into quite dangerous positions.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, do I want to be there or maybe not?
Yeah. I really do. Obviously, I often try to avoid putting in the sort of, if there's like a brand name or there's like I kind of try to avoid that if I can, but
it's so prominent here. I think it's actually, it sets the scene. I quite like that it's there. The only thing I would say is you've taken this like as a really sort of squared on image where you've really squared up to the action, but you're not quite square. So
no, I'm not.
See that you've got you can see from, unfortunately, it's got tiles on it's bricks on the wall, so you can see that it's slightly off, but I think it's fractional.
Yeah.
And you might be able to get the auto thing in Lightroom to pull it around for you.
Yeah, I remember having to jump up really quick because they were going so crazy that I just didn't have time to sort of.
So I would, because it's only just off. I tried to straighten it at the bottom, but that kind of puts it more out at the top. And
it does.
Might be just far enough away from the side that you can just alter that.
Yeah.
And it will get rid of this red blob for you as well.
Yeah. Did you get anywhere you like got close to those two boys on the what is it, left? I forgot.
Yeah, I could have done. I had my shoes on. I remember thinking I can't go on the mat because they don't go on the mat with your shoes on, and I
not quick enough then.
No, but you know what? That we were there for 2 hours, and I had time. I could have taken my shoes off and got in there, and So it may be a place. I'm sure we'll return there another day. So
'Cause
I'll
that's
get
quite
another-
fun then if you, because that won't be a dangerous place for you to be in necessarily.
No.
You get a bit close on that side and just focus on the expressions and the
Yeah.
limbs that
Yeah.
are flying in all sorts of directions.
Yeah.
And this-
It got progressively more chaotic as the time went on.
Sure.
I think it's interesting as well, though, this picture, because we, going back to the Holy Trinity, we're talking about the light composition moment. This sort of place has horrible light, yeah,
Yeah, awful.
really awful light.
Yeah.
But you've made the most of other things. You've made a good composition and you've waited for a really good moment. So you've strengthened those two parts of the Holy Trinity, because there's nothing you can do about the crap
No.
lighting in a place like this. It's
Yeah.
that awful overhead
Artificial light, like the big strip lights. Yeah.
lighting, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's about making the most, exactly what we were saying at the start, it's about making the most of what you have got.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks,
It makes
Claire.
sense. Thank you.
Lovely to hear your voice again.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Right. Next one. I don't know who that picture is, so if it's yours, wave.
Yeah, it
in
would
the
be
comments
great,
or
because this
something.
is one of the things we were saying this at the very, very start of when we were going to start talking and critiquing the compositions, the clinic. We really like the composition here. It's lovely. There's so many limbs pointing in and bent.
The thing is, the limbs lead us towards something that
We
is
don't
really
know what's
important.
happening. We can't
We
work
don't
it
know.
out. And so whatever, or maybe
Oh,
then
it's mine. Oh,
instruction
somebody's sleeping
manual.
here. Oh, Jessie, it's yours. Hi, Jessie. Jesse's another.
Is this an instruction manual? I'm like, and there's
Just
a
type in
screen.
the comments.
Maybe because I'm actually looking at it. We flicked through earlier. Maybe I can read it now more.
Are they're assembling basketball
They're
hoops? Are they
assembling.
assembling it?
Okay, that's the hoop.
Got
Yeah,
it
no,
now.
I can see it more. It's just making sure that you can, what we were saying, make sure that what you can see is translated in the picture so that other people can tell the story, can understand the story. And actually looking at it now, I'm kind of reading it better than I did before.
Yeah, because we can see the spare parts like above in the hands, right?
Yeah,
I'm
and they're
pointing at the screen and you can't see me where I'm pointing.
yeah, they're passing the screws to each other. And I love this angle where you've got all of these hands and knees and bent elbows and things. And you've also got the people at the top. You can see it's a collaborative effort because you've got
That's
the
what
other
I mean. It's
well,
passing.
yeah.
Can you draw all the angles? Because I think I want to show people like how many
Sure,
angles
yeah.
and leading lines are there, essentially.
Just makes it really zingy when you've got lots of, so you've got a bent elbow, a bent wrist, you've got a little arm there, you've got another little fingers there, you've got another arm here and a bent wrist there and a bent finger there, and you've got a bent knee here. So there's all sorts of little, and actually those two together and this elbow here. So there's all sorts of angles, and it just makes the picture bouncy. Is that the best? Your eyes bounced around by all the pointy zigzags and triangles.
Yeah. I wonder if we could tighten it up a little bit from the bottom, because I can see a bit of so the shorts end and there's a bit of flesh on the right hand side. Can you see it?
Sorry, where am I looking?
Right corner, see? Short end, yeah. And is there a way we can tidy it up a little bit, or is it gonna mess up with all the lovely angles of people?
Like this?
Something like that, yeah, I wonder. Is it better or worse? I think it's what, I don't know.
No, I think it's not so distracting.
No,
It's
it's not.
right. This is a
I
bit.
think that, yeah.
But yeah, maybe this. I hadn't realised actually. This hand comes, I think,
Comes
from
onto that body, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realise that.
I think it's like a nice picture that is in a series. So then, like, if you photographed throughout them doing that to kind of make it into a little story.
Yeah.
Quite nice that teens and grown-ups, I assume, working together. It's a nice teenager life capture.
Yeah, it's a really nice capture.
Yeah.
I like the choice of black and white actually in this as
Yeah,
well.
very good toning here. I love the toning.
Really nice toning, yeah.
Yeah. Enjoyed that, Jessie. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I'm happy to take another look at it. Like I said, we were flicking through so quickly, and I actually really enjoyed this looking at it now.
Okay, let's look at this one.
So this one we wanted to talk about
Again,
because
if it's yours, shout in the comments.
the observation is really lovely,
No.
but I don't think the execution of that observation is as good.
Observation and the moment and the lights are really good.
Lights amazing.
Composition, the composition is what's letting it down here.
And let's go back to annotating. So we've got these thirds again, really. And actually the bit that's interesting is this here for me. It's the texture of the sand on the belly, and maybe, I don't know.
I do like both hands. I do like both hands.
That's not doing anything for me, the hand.
The other one, you mean?
Either of them. The hands are annoying me.
No, I like them. I actually like them.
I just want a picture of that without the hands.
But then the hand would annoy me more because it's like
No,
would you wait? Okay.
without the hands in. I just want to see the texture of the sand that's stuck to the sun cream on the belly and the bikini top. That would be really interesting. A really interesting observation of something that happens at the beach. Maybe they've been rolling around in the beach, that maybe they've been covered in sand. And you can feel that feeling when you look at that. I can feel the feeling of sand. I hate the feeling of sand on me, and it's actually making me like my skin crawl because I hate that. But I love that it's making me do that. But it would be so much stronger if it was just that.
I actually disagree on that one. And again, like we don't always agree, Emma and I. I like the fact that she's touching the sand. It's like it's a really interesting motion touching the grains of sand, not like trying to get it off like that, but touching them.
That
But
could be
if it
interesting,
was
but you
taken,
can't see it. You can't see that.
that's what I mean.
It's
You-
just a big hand that's coming into the
Well, let
picture.
me finish, and I'll explain.
Sorry.
If it was taken more square on and with the belly right in the middle, and maybe we could see a little sliver of lake or whatever it was around it, so it's more equal. And then you can include both hands, and those little gestures are actually, because what is it, 24, so it's a wide lens, it exaggerates the limbs and the hands in an interesting way for me, and the way they bend is quite interesting. So if it was taken more balanced without like cropping out one side and including way too much on the other side, I think that would be more interesting for me.
Yeah, I think that it really is about the angle and the way that the photo is taken. You could take it portrait and edit out anything but the skin and really hone in on that detail and the texture.
Yeah, and I also wonder, this person
And
probably
therefore
did it for a while, and you could have done both, right? You can,
Yeah, or like you were saying, exactly the same. I totally agree. You could, if you've got it central, and so you can see what they're actually doing, and think back to that Martin Parr image at the beginning and how strong that position was, where the person's head was in the middle of the frame, and that's what you want, because actually the background isn't that important here.
but you could like include little slivers of it if you needed to like center the person. I like the fact that they've excluded the head. I think that's
yeah, I think that's good.
We don't need that. I think
it's about it's about
and it's about the feeling. It's about the feeling. It's not about the person. So again, like the light here is gorgeous. Going back to that Holy Trinity, light is gorgeous. I think I love the moment even with hands. I know you don't agree, but the composition needs, and
I could live with. I mean, the hands. If I could see what the hands were doing, like you said, if it was central and you could see this that it was bothering them and they were trying to get it off, or they're like kind of poking it or touching. That would be interesting. But whereas it is like this, is the hand is just a great big thing sticking over. I can't see the gesture of the moment is hidden behind these fingers.
Yeah.
It's the finger that you can't see touching the skin, and you can't see that moment, so it just is in the way, and you want to see really all of that, fill it with that,
So what's interesting about documentary photography as well, and we talk a lot about it, I think, is that obviously you can't recreate the moment. But the reason we believe the critiques are the best way to learn is because we can talk through the picture, we can get in your head, And next time something similar happens, you can make that because you're making micro decisions when it comes to composition, and it's sort of intuition and sort of muscle memory a little bit as well. And the aim is to kind of get you making those micro decisions really, really quickly without like thinking about them so much. And the more you hear us in your head, or whoever, have look at the picture, to center it, or look at the moment, look at the edges, the more chances next time that you will get the best shot next time something similar happens, because kids, again, they do repeat stuff often, so you could have the opportunity. Jesse's saying 100%.
Another little detail that you might have caught if you'd have gone more centered is, because again, this hand isn't doing much. Maybe that hand would be out of the picture completely. I don't know. Somehow you get this one, and you've got the bracelet, which feels like a holiday thing as well, which is quite nice. You can't really see that because it's so near the edge of the frame. I think it's working out what's important. I think the person who's taken this has noticed that it's the sand on the tummy and what the child is doing is interesting, but then it's how do you take the photograph to show that, and that has not happened. It's not come across. So think really carefully about how to position yourself, how to put the subject in the frame. What else do you need? Do you need to see the hands? Do you not need to see the hands? Does it need to be portrait and get closer? Do you want to get a bit further? Do you want to wait for the hands to move? You've got to ask these questions subconsciously, actively or subconsciously, when you're there, so that you can capture the thing you want to show, the thing that you've noticed that's interesting. You can show that in the picture.
Yeah. Okay, let's move to the next one.
So I want to just commend the person on noticing the thing, because I think that's really interesting.
That's a good skill, yeah, to notice the
actually, some people don't have that, so that's a really good thing.
Right, so we wanted to talk about this one because it's like there's two ways to take this picture, and then maybe those of you who have been here from the start will know what we will say. And you like put them in the comments if you think you'll know what we'll say. No comments? Okay. Do the pen.
What's this?
There's nothing here.
Nothing here. Which is there's two ways of doing it. You could have done that if you.
I think that's really interesting. So just rewinding back, it's a really well observed moment. Again, there's a juxtaposition between the adult sitting bored and the little girl being, or little child being so excited.
She's got good air as well. She is off the floor, which is great. But the contrast between these two.
Yeah, and there's a bit of side eye going with the grown up.
Yeah. So the problem comes from this person's too close to the edge of the frame, and they're going out, their foot's going out at the bottom and the side. And so if you look at the frame and the back, like she's dead center. So she's
just maybe was the thinking, yeah, put the main character center, but it's not always the right thing to do.
But then you've got nothing on this side, and so much, because you've actually got objects and things on this side and the other person. It's so heavy and weighted to that side. So it needs balancing out more. Or
you just do the girl.
A portrait of the girl jumping, or you have a sort of off-center jump and you have it like kind of in that direction.
That you can do actually, yeah. If you want to include empty space with just one subject and without. So again, another thing we talk a lot about in turning case into art is this idea of visual balance. And it's sort of the balancing of the picture, and that is a great example of that, where it's like a scale almost, right? There's a lot on this side. It feels really heavy.
It's just pulling you all the way over to the left. Everything's pulling you to the left. That it actually takes away from the main character.
Yeah, yeah. And he's also wearing dark clothes. Like that's an extra like weight on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very, very light.
And the fact that he's going out of the frame as well just takes you even more to that side.
You keep looking to that side, and there's nothing.
It makes this side feel even more wasted and empty.
Yeah.
The other thing I must point out as well, and he's giving eye contact. I don't want the eye contact. That takes me out of the picture as well. I like the observation of the jumping jack child, having fun, and the bored, stationary, sort of somber young adult or dad or teen, I can't tell. But I don't want to see them. That takes me out of the picture. That also makes me look at this person even more. Everything's pulling me to the left-hand side.
Mm.
You've got to be so careful about that, how you could have composed this, because it's a lovely moment of the little girl.
Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. We have half an hour left. Oh my God.
We're gonna do 15, oh gosh,
Oh,
15. We're not gonna get to the end, sorry. Should we try and whiz?
let's try, yeah. This one I kind of wanted to talk a little bit briefly. I think the idea is great.
Yeah,
So
there's lots of nice things about it.
there's nice things about it. I like the anonymity of it. I like the idea of including a foreground element with dog.
Yeah, it's lovely having the foreground because it just expands the frame from front to back.
Yeah,
And
and it kind of gives you more of a glimpse into people's lives, and dog seems calmer than the kid.
and you've got this nice moment. You've got the lovely anonymity that Antonina said, but also it's a nice moment. They're sucking, really going for the last bit of milk from the cereal, I think.
Mm.
I think what's missing for us is you've got this great moment there, which is a tiny part of the frame. You could have come in a bit tighter, I think. But and as much as the dog is wonderful, I wish there was something going on, and you can't make this happen, but I wish
But also,
doing something like looking at the food or
I
wanting.
actually don't think. I think if the dog, so we can't see the settings on this, but I think the aperture is too shallow to attempting that sort of picture. And if you'd made it slightly higher f-stop, so instead of like I don't know, 4, go to f8, the dog would have been less of a blob and more of an interesting juxtaposition to the kid. And then I don't need the dog to do anything. I think it's a really nice profile of the dog to kind of frame the kid. Yeah, something like that.
I think you take it closer as well, because there's a lot of stuff up here that's distracting or wasted space again. You don't need the ceiling. The light's distracting. The window is very close to the edge. It's very bright on that point. You've got the plant, and the sofa is uncomfortably trimmed at the side, which is distracting as well. So going closer, because actually this is the interesting stuff.
Yeah, totally. And that how
I,
much
I
better
love,
that is. Yeah.
I love this boy's position and what he's doing. It's great.
And now we can see the animal on his t-shirt as well. That kind of adds to it.
Yeah. And you've got this nice sort of warm orange theme running through it with the wood behind and on his leg, which sort of, and his toe points to the dog. So it's, there's some nice things here. You've got lovely angles of the body position. You've got lovely angles on the fingers, the elbows, the knee. It's really, that's lovely. But just be careful how close you are. What's important. So it's that reductive art of photography where you reduce, take out what you don't need.
Yep. Let's keep going. Have another doggo picture.
Yeah, we like
We wanted
dogs.
to talk about it.
So this, there's some nice things about this. I think that it's slightly overexposed in this, but you've got a nice silhouette. It's nice light, nice reflection. But what we really wanted to say, the dog's got a good moment, got good movement in it, and it's got these nice angles of it's moving across the frame. But don't rely on things like reflections to make an image, because actually there's not a moment here apart from the dog moving.
Yeah, it's not so much for me that it's not a moment. It's that it could be a quiet moment. It could be the boy or the child, sorry, just staring at the reflection, and it could be that still scene of winter light, just beautiful feeling. But I think the child is kind of in between something, so they're not standing like tall and firm, and neither they are moving in an interesting way. So maybe waiting a little bit until they do one or the other. This is like an in-between moment that's not really doing anything or not still enough to like do that.
I think there's an awful lot of space around this as well. I think it's just a little bit too much
I quite like it because it's more like a landscape picture with people in it and dogs. One dog.
It's a good.
Yeah.
See.
Any picture is better with a dog.
I think I would. Ooh,
What have you done?
I just wanted to see where the top of the
Mm.
photo. I just feel like I want the boy slightly, might have been slightly more interesting, but it's not quite so much at the foreground. Maybe you move it over so that the dog and him are.
Well, maybe if the boy's dead center, then.
Would you put him dead center? But then the balance feels off.
No, actually,
The
no.
dog feels
Not,
off.
not that I've said that and seen it. I was like, no.
Yeah, that part of the problem for me is the dog makes this side of the picture a bit
Mm.
more active.
That's like also an interesting practice to do. Like, obviously, we don't recommend cropping it too much once you've actually taken the picture, because you can always see it's been cropped. But it's a good practice just for yourself, just to play and see what would have been a better framing next time I come across a similar frame, a similar scene. So you
think
can
that
do
might
that just for you.
Interesting
And
like this.
play. Yeah, maybe. But I do enjoy the scene because the light is beautiful and I
It's
like.
beautiful light. Yeah, nice, beautiful winter light.
Right. Let's keep going.
This one we really liked, didn't we?
I really like that one. That's a really great example.
Yeah, it's a really good picture. I really like it.
A shooting in a really difficult light.
Very
super-
difficult. It's such a
but
good example of,
utilizing this
yeah,
artificial light in such a way that it, tells a story.
such a good example of using like people, the sort of light that people don't like. I actually love artificial light and light from screens that you can really see on the child at the background. You sometimes get these weird colors from screens as well. And you've got this turquoise in the back. I don't think there's much you could have changed really with your. I mean, you could probably put your ISO up a little bit more and maybe increase your aperture or
I don't think you need to. Like, there's no.
Don't really
Like,
need
it looks fine. I love the cat looking at the screen as well.
I love that moment there. That's like
a moment. So if it was just
right.
two children sitting looking at their devices, that would be a nice, like a good picture, right? It's a scene at home. But this cat
the
adds
cat
that
adds
little
the
extra
extra.
moment.
It's the cherry on the top, isn't it?
Yeah, basically.
You've got fabulous light on the front child's face.
Mhm.
And I like the back child. Obviously, you're drawn to it because of the light on them.
And you don't
it's-
notice them right away. You notice
No,
them
but
after a
the
beat.
color, you see the color is lovely. I do wonder whether it could lose a bit of the space on
That's the only thing that's bothering me. Yeah.
I feel like
Essentially. You don't need that empty
you
space.
don't need that much. You want to get the kids,
Mm,
but I think you can take it to somewhere like this.
yeah.
Maybe.
I do like the rug. I do like the rug.
Yeah, I like seeing it, but I don't think we need all of it. Yeah.
That's much better, I think. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
much better.
And I love the tone, the colors in this. You've got this lovely blues and oranges, which are always really pretty together. So you've got the warm tones in the front and he's in blue. And then you've got these sort of cooler tones and some yellow light coming from the side as well.
Don't be afraid to mix different tones as well. So cool and warm light together, sometimes it's tricky, but it can make a really interesting photo.
Yeah, so you have got that here, you've got this other source of warm light here. She's got this really cool color on it, and he's in he's in a warmer, but it's a brighter, you can see what's on his screen, it's quite white, so it's actually just it's reflecting a great light on his face.
That's a really lovely shot.
Really lovely. Yeah, really nice. And you've got sort of the front half is the warmer half and the back half is cooler. It's really lovely. I really like it.
The furniture as well fits it as well, doesn't it?
Perfectly.
It's a happy coincidence.
And I like all the bits on the table as well. That all ties in really nicely. The color palette is gorgeous.
Absolutely. Right. The next two pictures, actually, we can look at them
Yeah,
together.
we wanted these two together. Can I show two together on here? I'm just going to flick between them.
Yeah. So there's both of lots and quite a few.
But first of all, this is an easier shot. There's only 3 people. This is a much harder shot because you've got lots.
Yeah.
But what this shot does successfully is that you've got each figure and the ball communicated really clearly. Think back to what we were saying with the Martin Parr photograph, when it was lots of people in the frame and how you need to try and get them into their spaces. And here it's done well. And actually the focus point is on the key person.
Yeah. Great moment, great angles, great expression. I think the only thing is, so I'm just again looking at settings. I think once you see it, you can't unsee it. Can you see how having a longer lens, 70 millimeters, makes you feel less in the moment than it is when it's a wider lens. Now, I want to say here, if you're photographing sport,
There is
you
a
do
reason.
not want to be,
Yeah.
you do not want to be right there. You do want to use a long lens, unless you're wearing a helmet, I assume, or something. But it does make you feel a little bit removed from the situation.
I just want to say as well one thing, because we keep talking about we just draw them on the thirds, and like, you know, in theory this is wasted space. However, in this situation, because these people are both moving in that direction and the ball is coming in this direction, it's got space for the ball and the people to move into, and then it feels fine. It feels like there's the right amount of space on this
Oh,
side.
actually, I was going to say on this one, I wonder if the photographer kind of shot, because when it's action shot like this, you kind of want to go click, 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 and then choose, right? Because you can't predict how the ball's going to move. So if the photographer waited a little bit for the ball to move a little bit forward to feel
Yeah,
that,
it would be nice if it was just slightly
just
further
a
over.
little bit, yeah. Yeah,
Then
or
it's
even,
imperfection, yeah.
yeah. I think that would balance the shot better, for sure.
But the reason why we wanted to show that is because it's a really similar photo, and these, as much as this is an easier photo because there's only 3 people, you can really see how each person has its place and you can see what they're doing. Whereas this one, we haven't got that. There's so much overlapping. We've got feet that have been just
I actually don't mind overlapping in this one so much.
Yeah.
It's the feet and the stray back of the
feet
head that's
and the back of
bothering
the
me more.
head. Yeah.
Because the main characters are actually, they are fairly all right. So the
These 3
5 main
here,
and the 2 girls as well.
I feel like they could have moved around to slightly to this sort of angle though, so that this girl wasn't conflicting with these people in the background. I think that might have improved it there. It's just being really careful and choosing your moment. But I don't know whether we need this guy either.
Yeah,
So
it
would you just
doesn't
go
feel
in
like it's part of the
closer?
scene.
Would you just go in closer and lose him? Let's see. Because then you could lose the head. I quite like the balloon going out of the frame. Where do you take it to? Tricky because wherever you go to, it's not a good place. That's really
Well, I think that sometimes you just can't save a picture. There's no way.
I don't think
You had
so.
to be in a good position. So
Yeah.
a
This-
lot of
yeah,
documentary
very helpful.
photography, and again, something that we'll talk about is anticipating or what's going to happen. Because if you chase the moment, and sometimes you have no choice but to chase the moment, but if you see them moving, like they're probably going in a fairly straight line, you can position yourself in a good position in advance without like children in front of you, hopefully, to then capture it.
And another thing you can do in a situation like this, where you've got loads and loads of people, and it's a confusing background, you know, because it's a busy background. You've got lots of people, but actually the picture is about these 3 people and probably this girl and maybe this girl as well. Yeah. So you could get down really low and shoot upwards so that you're getting them against the trees and the sky, and you're removing the other people from the background. And then you would lose, like this girl might come into the picture, or you'd be in a different position altogether. But get down low and then you lose
Shooting up,
yeah, and shoot
shooting up is always a good solution.
it cleans up your background in a really simple, just a simple move. Get down low, shoot up high, and when you've got a very busy background, it can eliminate that for you.
Yeah. Just want to touch base, guys, if anyone has any questions about anything, and doesn't have to be related to what we're talking about, pop them in the comments, because we're going to wrap up in about 20 minutes. And if there's lots of questions, we want to answer them as well. So do you want to pick a couple?
Have we got, this was a cute one. Oh no, this one. So this one I want to talk about, because you've got a lovely moment here.
And again, okay, let's just say I really like the observation.
Really great observation.
Using the structure, whatever it is, to frame the family doing whatever they're doing is really smart, and using that as a frame.
Which is perfect because the frame of the structure is framing the little kid in the background here really nicely, but I'm sure everyone can see this. You've got this space here which isn't doing anything. This gap could, if you centered this gap and made this child the center of the picture, then you'd suddenly have this kid more in the picture. And this is actually the most important thing of the picture, I think, because this is funny. They're squashing their face up against the thing, and it's funny, but it's so close to the edge that it's just distracting and it's pulling you to this side.
So again, the balance is slightly
Balance, yeah. So what you really want is this frame to have been sort of here. Just moved yourself slightly to the right. Then this little child would have gone over here. This little child would have moved over here. And the adult would be here. And then suddenly you've got a much more balance to the frame. You've got a lovely structure that's creating a frame within the frame. And you've got the funny kid in the foreground, but properly into the photograph.
Yeah. I think it's it's essentially a portrait of this little child in the middle, but just beautifully, like, with additional elements of the chaos that's unfolding around
the
them.
other way you could have photographed it actually, to take the adult, because the adult isn't adding much, and gone like that.
That's another option, yeah.
And had a comparison. Actually, I haven't drawn that great. If you could have got this line as the center line, so you'd have like almost like a diptych of the two children. So you could draw it like, I'm just doing a rough estimate, sort of like around there. And then you've got the comparison and the juxtaposition of their behavior. So that could also have worked, I think.
Yeah. Right.
Uh,
Verena is saying, I know, I wish I'd done that.
who was it?
Verena, am I saying it right? Saying, yeah.
I just wanted to quickly look at this one because it's such a lovely moment.
That's Vinalina, I think. Vinalina, if you hear, say hi.
She's one of our old TCA people.
Yeah.
And this is a really lovely, it's a really lovely moment. A mother and daughter, maybe, or daughter and granddaughter and grandmother. Their feet are really lovely mirroring of each other here, walking into.
Hi, Benny.
And then they're framed by these people who are playing in the water in such a different way to the way that they're sedately walking along. And I love that they're in black and all of the people playing are in bright colors as well. It's a really sweet frame.
And there's so she's saying I saw them on the beach. So it's like basically a street photograph, right?
Yeah.
I like that it's sort of anonymous as well. But it's, yeah, I was just gonna say maybe take it down.
I just want to slightly put them
But everyone, apart from two people, each have their own space. They're each separated, and that I think
in pairs as well, which is quite a lovely sort of mirroring repetition. I'm trying to work out where that goes. Maybe it's.
Oh, you spoke to them. If you want, if you can unmute yourself, if your little one is not sleeping, feel free to briefly.
Hi,
Hi, Antonina. How are you?
Lovely to see you, ladies.
Lovely to see you. Well,
This was something I had in my head on the beach, this layering and all these exercises which we did during the course. And I was totally moved by this old lady. She was 92, who went on the beach, and she had this joy seeing the beach and the waves. And I took many, many, many pictures of them and went twice to talk to them. I was totally moved. I probably had tears in my eyes when I spoke with them. It was just very moving to see this old lady
enjoying it.
happy to be at the beach and kind of
her daughter or her granddaughter that's helping.
It was her daughter.
It's her daughter, yeah.
Yeah. And I spoke to them in English, and the daughter spoke a bit of English, the old lady not, but it was very, very moving moment. And I didn't want it to put the camera in front of them because it's kind of, you cannot just, it's not my family or stuff, but I've taken many, many pictures of them. There's a picture which I'm happy to share on Instagram. It's actually on my profile in the Instagram. It's where the daughter brought a small chair, so the old lady sat and they just talked together. It was very moving. But for me, this is also family photography, because very often family, it's only children, but you know, sometimes elderly are also
Yeah,
also
definitely.
the family, and
I'd
it's
love to see more
worth
elderly people.
capturing.
I
that.
think you've translated your feelings really well into this, because I found it quite moving to look at this picture as well. So yeah, it's really lovely.
Well done. And I love how you've done all your figurative ground and subject separation as well.
I've still this 10 lessons in my head. To anybody who is thinking, should I take it or not, the next course, please do it. It's amazing.
You're an
Thanks.
amazing student as well.
Okay, shall we?
Yeah, let's go.
In case there's any questions. Does anyone have any questions? There's quite a lot of people still here.
Yeah, if you want to chat to us, now is the opportunity.
Yeah,
I'm
you can-
sorry we couldn't get through all the pictures. We'd really like to. We'd really like to, but hopefully what we talked about.
Taking something
give you
away
enough-
from the ones that we've looked at, even if it's not yours, it's a really good way of learning. Just listening to anybody's critique. So, anyone got any questions?
About anything, you can ask about gear, you can ask about what else? Anything. Just give people a second to type. So before we finish, well, if anyone's sort of busy typing things, I'll just say that again, Turning Chaos into Art is our this was great. Thanks, Liz.
Thank you, Liz.
It's our group mentoring program, which is focused mainly on composition, but also touches upon other elements of picture taking. It's kind of been described by our past students as building blocks. So you kind of start with small things and you build and build and build until you get to quite complicated stuff. Not complicated, complex. And there's the fifth run starts on the 12th of February. We still have about the 6 spots left. And I've posted in the chat the link to, I'm going to post it again in case people join later, the link to the course, and we have a little discount as a thank you for everyone for participating today. A little discount that will last until end of Monday. If you want to join, and it's looking to be a really good group as well. And if you have any questions, feel free to message us on Instagram, like about the course or the schedule or anything like that.
We have a question from Angela here. Hold on, quick.
Okay. Katrina is asking, so the course works this way. There's a unit and an assignment released, and 2 weeks after that, on a Sunday and on a Monday, there's a group critique. So Sunday evening and Monday sort of late morning, early afternoon.
That's GMT or
GMT. Katrina, I think, is in the UK, I'm pretty sure.
So
and
so
then you
yeah.
choose which one works better for you, basically.
And we do it over a 2-week span, so that if people are working, because we often get people who are full-time working in a variety of jobs, whether photographer or not photographer. So you've got 2 weekends, really.
To shoot, yeah.
To shoot the assignment. And the actual listening and reading, I mean, there's people here who've taken the course before. I don't think they take too long reading.
No, it's the critiques that are probably the longest, although we do have like a video where we dissect famous photographers essentially, or our own pictures, to give you examples of what we mean.
Yeah,
But
and we
feel free,
record critiques so that everyone can catch up on them, because it is worth watching as much of them as you can, even if you can't attend live.
Katrina, please feel free to message me or Emma or Made for Documentary account, and we'll send you like a full schedule, because we already have it, so you can see which dates exactly are the critiques. But also we have had students who haven't been able to attend because they're like in Australia, and they've just watched it. Okay. Ethics in Martin Parr.
Yeah. Angela's given us a lovely juicy question.
Thanks, Angela.
I think that Martin Parr is, by his very nature, quite controversial, and that is his style.
I think it's different, slightly. Street photography is slightly different because it's not one subject, it's a scene, even though like the picture we looked at is a portrait, but it's not it's sort of not used to promote a cause or not used to like,
It's
it's not about a person, it's about a culture. Maybe that's a better way
Yeah.
to say it.
I mean, he is poking. It's controversial. He is poking fun at the British culture and the Britishness, and he does that. But it is also very much rooted in street photography. I think for me, the slight difference is does he? So it's really tricky because I do feel like retrospectively, like Migrant Mother, the photographer, they're potentially there's taking advantage of a situation. It's Dorothea Lang. I don't know. Was she commissioned to take those pictures by a newspaper?
She was commissioned, and I remember reading about it, and I don't recall the exact details, but I remember and I might be wrong, but I remember there was something about the woman not really giving consent, and then it ends up everywhere, and that's not great. And it's kind of, I think the question is, so funny enough, my son and I, who's 12, he loves. I'm going to come back to photography. Trust me. Just let me do a little circle. We talk a lot about stand-up comedy a lot, and in comedy there's this expression of punching up or punching down. So when you make fun or do something about people who are marginalized or at a disadvantage, that's a no-no. You don't do that. Whereas punching up, making fun of the powerful, totally fine. Or punching forward, like making fun of yourself or like your group of people. So I think it's not quite a comedy, obviously, photography, but what Martin Parr is doing, I think, is punching forward.
Yeah.
It's commenting.
And
even still, like
take,
it's controversial.
He is like a photography's answer to a stand-up comedian, actually, because he's observing funny things about a culture, or his own culture. So there is that element as well where he is part of that, like you said, he's putting forward, it is his that
with the Migrant Mother, I think it's very much punching down, the same way as if you're a photographer and you parachute into India somewhere, you have no connection, and you point a camera at a poor kid on the street. That's the same thing. Like for me, it's a no, you don't do that. Even though it feels maybe it's exciting, but it's just no. But I don't know if there are any kids listening. I hope not. But it's poverty porn, basically, and we don't want to do that.
Taking advantage of the disadvantaged is not a good thing to do.
Basically, I think that's my answer. That's my answer.
But it is a really good question. I think Martin Parr toes the line.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is something like.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Laura, thank you. Yeah, we're gonna have read about that.
So yeah. Any other questions? Thank you, Angela. I'm glad that makes sense. Did you have anything that you wanted to say about it, Angela? Did you have a feeling about it?
I guess I just wouldn't like to be in one of his pictures.
So I was saying the same. I was literally, I forgot I was going to say that, but Antonina was talking and I forgot. If I was somebody who found myself in one of his pictures that he was poking fun about, I don't think I'd be very happy about it. So I do wonder if the people in his photos have seen them in that and how they feel about it.
There is that thing of a famous white male photographer who gets away with an awful lot of stuff that other people won't be able to get away with. I was actually talking to someone about like photography and permissions and all that sort of thing recently, and we kind of agreed on this. If you take a picture and something inside you is niggling you, like, should I share it? Should I post it anywhere? That's your sign that something wasn't right. You shouldn't. You're taking advantage. And things, times have changed, obviously, now on social media, whereas before it was print and, not as many people would have seen something like the Migrant Mother. Well, many people have seen Migrant Mother. We're now much more aware of how far an image can spread. But yeah, I wouldn't. I think, I have a signed book by Martin Parr, and I think I asked him a question, and he wasn't very helpful either. He was at the photography show.
He's quite arrogant, Martin Parr.
He is. I can't remember.
I think that comes across in his pictures.
No, I think it was Pete Souza. I don't think it was Martin Parr that was rude to me.
Really? That's disappointing.
Well, it's not rude to me, but I think I asked something about, you ever like missed a picture or regretted? I think it was Pete Souza. regretted not taking a shot. He's like, I never missed a shot. Like, okay,
Great
fine.
answer. Oh my gosh, if only you could be that sure of yourself. That's yeah.
Yeah, I just want to go back to that social commentary. I think there's a lot, as soon as you get into ethics of photography, there's a lot to unpack, and I don't think anyone is doing it right. I think a lot of people are trying to, but there's an argument towards letting the communities tell their own stories.
Which is why the first photo we looked at with Shen-Chi Chang, that works so well because he's part of that community and he's telling his own story through his community.
And there's now photographers everywhere. Like, you don't, obviously, there are photographers who can tell a story of a community without being part of the community. But oftentimes, I think it's almost better if there are, because they're much, much deeper understanding, much more nuance as well. I think nuance is a lot of the times is missing in photojournalism. But that's like, we're going to the depths of the depths. Any gear questions or composition questions?
That done, everyone?
Yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in.
We said we're not very good at keeping time normally, but we said we'd be finished by 10 and it's 2 minutes to 10. So unless anyone's got any more questions, we can let you go off to bed or wherever, or maybe start your day if you're somewhere else in the world. I can't work out what time everyone's at. But lovely to have had you. Thank you everyone for coming. We really appreciated it. Thank you everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Let me wait. How do I stop the recording?
Oh God, yeah. They've moved stuff around.